money get paper. But you know we party hard later. Mr. Flex and Papa got the old city lock with the girls in each and every area. Stepping NLC with no chaser.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I am Illuminati, and this is the Crypto and Cognac podcast show, as always, powered by Alti.com, the one-click crypto wallet for Telegram and WhatsApp, and soon to your favorite crypto messaging app. And as always, fueled by Hennessy TT. This evening, I'm having some VSOP. I mean, despite the fact that the graphic has some Hennessy pure white on it, I wasn't able to make it out to refill my stock. I didn't realize my stock was so low. So I'm going to rock with my favorite tonight. Guys, as always, so happy to have you. I'm particularly excited because it's season 2, episode 2. And even though we're not supposed to say that number because my guest is Jamaican and they don't play number 2. But with that said, I want to introduce you guys to the amazing Joan Webley. I'm going to try my best to introduce her. Let me get the full stats because I don't want to mess this up, right? So Joan, let me tell you all about Joan. So Joan is an artist, cultural activist, and intellectual property attorney, right? Her professional qualifications and her professional experience include being the manager of the Copyright Organization of Jamaica, advisor to the Minister of Culture, co-founder of the Jamaica Music Conference, founder of Nanak Creative Hub, co-founder and president of Itopia Life, one of the first medical cannabis companies in Jamaica, board member of Jamaican Women in Coffee, and her work in branding, strategy, development, and IP asset management in the real world has recently expanded into the cryptoverse. Joan released a white paper called Caribbean Creatives and Culture in the Cryptoverse as part of Carry Drop, which is how we initially connected when she shared that white paper with me. And that is part of the vision that she's trying to realize through the One Digital Caribbean. She's truly a Caribbean woman. She's lived in Trinidad, Grenada, and she currently moves between Jamaica and Italy, which is where she's joining me from today. Joan, thank you very much for being part of the podcast. I want to thank you in advance for staying up late. I know it's quite a bit later for you than it is for me, but you're here and you're joining me and having a drink. So cheers.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that. I couldn't think of a better reason to stay up late than to come and talk some crypto greatness and brilliance with an inspiration like yourself, Alu. So thanks for the invitation.
So, I mean, you know, we Caribbean people, we don't have conversations, we don't lime dry mouth. So obviously the drink was necessary. But
it makes sense. It made the talk sweet.
So I tried my best to introduce you. But for anything that I may have missed out, to add a little color to the points that I would have raised, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when people speak about the things that you've done or do. Unless you understand the why of it, it can seem wholly random. Like, why was she doing ganja and then over in coffee, and what's this about the music industry? That's a whole other thing. And it's actually funny because it was in Trinidad where I really cemented and figured out what I wanted to do with my life. That's led me down this path. And it might seem all random, but it's been so far, it's all been connected by intellectual property. And it's all been connected by a really early recognition. I moved away from Jamaica, as you mentioned, when I was younger. I actually moved away as many people did during what we call a FinStack era. It was a big financial crisis Jamaica had. And so from a long time, I was one of many, and friends had left before me. And we all kind of felt like we'd been exiled. Like none of us wanted to leave our home, but all of us were going to these different places. And so, I live in Trinidad and Grenada, and I live in as far as Australia, and I'm seeing Jamaican culture everywhere. And it just didn't make sense to me. One-on-one, don't make two. How could we have all of this great culture and the country can't afford for us to stay? Pretty much can't afford to keep its citizens. So intellectual property, I figured out was that thing that was the difference between great music and great music business. And the more when I studied it, I didn't even know how much it was. But when you get into intellectual property, you realize that anything named creativity, anything named branding, anything named innovation has to do with IP. And just to wrap it all up, I just believed in the power of it, because you can start with nothing and with IP end up with a whole lot. It has its issues, which is why I'm now a crypto convert. Because IP has its issues, and I feel saved by the blockchain. But the why I think is what I'd love to share with listeners. I mean, I do all of these things, but it's because I feel like IP and creativity is something Caribbean have in an abundance, and I was really interested to see how we could use it for independence.
All right. So you kind of mentioned that now you're a blockchain convert.
Yeah, man.
What was that thing that, or tell me about your story, your introduction to cryptocurrency, your introduction to blockchain? What was that one point that kind of sank home to you that, you know what, this is just another step in my journey to really build IP for Jamaican people, for Caribbean people, for people of the world as a whole?
Yeah. There were actually two steps, and I'll be really quick to get it all in. But first,
we got time.
You got time. Okay. First was around about 2016. I was running the Nanook Creative Community Space at the time, and anyone who's run a community space or creative space knows that they're amazing, but they're not very profitable, or they're not usually sustainable without some subsidies. So I was really racking my head trying to figure out how to keep this thing going. And I kept thinking, because I mean, Nanook had Chronix and Kabaka and all these people on the stage before they were as huge as they were. And I kept thinking, if there was some way for us to let the artists pool works or contribute, and then we could, or persons could even work behind the bar, and then we give them hours that they can use in the studio, because it was a creative space, and I was thinking if we had our own currency that we could do stuff with, that would be amazing. And Ingrid Riley, who organized FOC, which I met you at, she was already organizing talks, Silicon Caribbean. I think Connecting Mass was the series, and she did a talk with BOJ, and I went there and was talking, saying, this is what I want to do, and I feel like we can do it with the tech. And Bank of Jamaica just shot me down. I was like, no, that's illegal. Creating a new currency, we don't think that's what you mean. So that was then, and I kind of put it in a little box and thought, oh, this blockchain thing sounds crazy anyway. I'm not a tech person, so I walked away. And then last year, or year before, end of 2020, December 2020, start of 2021, I kind of moved to Italy properly and was really wanting to stay connected. And blockchain was just coming again and again as a solution for so many things. And I went down the rabbit hole, as you said. Clubhouse got me.
Yeah, I mean, the rabbit hole, it's deep, it's never ending. Clubhouse definitely has been one of those gateways to that whole Twitter Spaces. Now is really building a huge platform there.
Now I have Discord. It's a whole bag of things. It's a whole new community world.
Well, I have a friend who he came into the space, and he joined my community, and then so we have a group chat, closed group chat on WhatsApp, and then we took it broader to Telegram, because Telegram allows for a lot more users. He's like, oh gosh, another app. Then he wanted to get involved in NFTs, and then he already had a MetaMask. He's like, but there was an NFT on Solana. He's like, oh god, another
wallet. You need Cognac.
Then he wanted to start following the NFT projects a little bit more. And I told him, well, you have to get Discord. He's like, oh my God, another app.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, when you get into this space, I mean, it's not quite, the interoperability in this space is not quite there yet, but you know, the community continues to be journeymen, moving from one thing to the next thing,
Yeah.
to get us over that hump and over that hill.
Yeah.
So
Can
you
I just say
found,
one thing on that note though? Sorry, I really think it's interesting because like you, I was looking to get off of social media, not to start adding more social media things to my phone. Like that's the opposite direction of where I want to head. And I think that that's what puts a lot of people off of this area. It feels like it's the opposite of the direction they want to go in. But truly, once you get over that initial hurdle, the benefits and the benefits, let me just stop there, are too much for you to allow a little tech challenge to let you miss out on.
yeah, I mean, I was seriously contemplating giving up social media, and here I am. I have a podcast.
A podcast instead.
The first season was 30 episodes on IG Live. So it's crazy what crypto does to you.
Yeah, yeah.
But going back to what I was gonna ask before, so you found your passion for intellectual property,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna let you talk a little bit more and explain, you know, the different elements of that, because I myself only recently, like when I started in the space and registering my business and deciding if I wanted to get this thing copyrighted and certain elements around it, that I realized, you know, there's a difference between copyrights, there's a difference between patents, there's a difference between trademarks, there's a difference between trade secrets. You have to register them in different territories for them to hold. So you
Yeah.
found your passion, and you also found a vehicle for that in crypto. How do you see those two things really intersecting? I mean, you spoke a bit about it in the white paper, but you know, for
Yeah.
the listeners, tell me about it.
Yeah, for anyone who has not gone to carrydrop.com to get the free white paper, um, I on a basic level, I am more impressed with what I see happening in crypto because, as you mentioned in the intro, like I was the manager of copyright, and so I met with creators from filmmakers to fashion designers to the full gamut writers, and it often felt like we weren't fully acknowledging that there was a gap between commercialization. It was one thing to have this great thing, but it didn't mean instant cash
Mhm.
unless you were able to do all of the other things that were necessary to commercialize. And those other things mean contracting, and those other things mean accessing international markets, and those other things mean, you know, the realm of possibilities and financing and fundraising yourself to scale. All of those things were challenges for the creative community that I didn't feel like we were addressing. That when I stepped into the NFT space, like bells just started to go off for me, and I could see so many uses where this could have potentially assisted young artists, potentially assisted filmmakers, potentially assisted so many creatives or intellectual property owners to do better. And then I also think of the intellectual property owners who have content that they never got to really benefit from for a variety of reasons. Again, maybe there were bad contracts, maybe there were no contracts, whatever it is. And I'm excited for them because I recognize that this is a whole new space that they don't necessarily need to rely on intellectual property rights to benefit from, even though it's intellectual property related.
Right.
So, you know, those are the things that make it very attractive to me. As you mentioned, I think intellectual property is very easy. I love speaking to people about it because once you simplify it for them and they get it, they're armed to go and do what's possible. So you rightly pointed out there are different forms. You know, copyright is creativity. If you're doing creative works, you're dealing with copyright. Trademarks are branding. If you're speaking any kind of brand, that's a trademark. Patents are for innovations or new creations, something
Right.
wholly new or something being used for a wholly new purpose.
Right.
And it's important people understand the difference because it's like when you get in a car and there are two pedals. You can't just say, oh, I could press one of them and go. No. Like they do very different things. Like you mentioned, trademarks, for example, Yes, they can be gained without being registered, but truly, for them to be effective, they need to be registered, and they need to be registered in a 7 year to 10 year period, renewed as long as the business is trading and using it,
Right.
or that brand is in purpose, and it needs to be done per territory, like you said. So if you're doing something in Trinidad and you trademark it there, don't feel like you protected it in Jamaica because different territory. And I could say, well, Crypto Caribbean, I gone down to Jaipur tomorrow to try and do my. I won't do that because respect due.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, you know. And then sorry, just to close it, as opposed to copyright, where if you own that there in Trinidad, you own that for the whole world.
Right.
I can't just rip off your stuff. So what you're doing here now with this program, you own the copyright in your podcast, and I can't just use and redistribute your material anywhere because you own it automatically. So it's just such a powerful thing. You can see I'm getting excited. Let me stop.
So for anybody out there planning to redistribute this content, I own it. Okay. Joan said that I own the copyright, right?
Hold on now. But Joan also said to them that they need to know intellectual property really well so they can know that there's some exemptions to intellectual property rights. And you know, I won't go any further because I see Al giving me a kind of side eye that I don't like. So I'm gonna stop.
Listen, Jay-Z said more important than chains is lawyer fees. So I think I need to get myself a good lawyer like yourself.
You mentioned the right name though, because
yeah, because that's where I'm gonna pivot next, because we've seen some drama with him around this copyright, this intellectual property issue in the metaverse.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, you're familiar with that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I am. I'm as familiar as anyone that's read the news. Unfortunately, I'm not a part of Jay's legal team, but call me. You understand? Not yet. It was the case. We're waiting for it to happen. As an attorney, when I was looking at this space, and as an IP attorney, as exciting as this space was, it was also a little bit mind-boggling because, as they say, it's wild, wild west, and people are excited that they don't need contracts and they don't need lawyers, and I'm happy for them. I'm not one of those lawyers that are vexed. I'm happy if you don't need lawyers and you can do your business and make money. But it was crazy because you're seeing person's content being used, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a ticking time bomb. And sure enough, within a matter of I think from my mouth to her ears, Jay-Z came out with a lawsuit. And for those who aren't familiar, Jay-Z sued his former or current business partner, Dame Dash. And the former was apparently trying to use or trade on some of the copyrights associated with a project that was jointly owned, which means that he can't do it on his own if it's intellectual property. However, I think he was trying to say that it's not the intellectual property that he was dealing with. This was an NFT, which is
I mean, I think I mean, from what I read of the story, and I tried to do some digging because I'm in this space. Jay-Z is my all-time favorite artist, forever.
Respect.
Right? Jay, hit your boy up. I trying anyway. We could talk about that after.
We can talk about that after.
But yeah, I mean, I was digging into it. I think the thing is that Dame Dash was also trying to, as part of the NFT, release the work itself. So he wanted the album itself to be released as an NFT. So it wasn't just an image or something associated with it. He was trying to reproduce the actual work.
And honestly, again, I'm always careful, as I say, this is not legal advice, it's not financial, from the outside looking in, exactly, this is what I read, but it just seemed so on the face of it astounding because it's just a clear no. It's just, when intellectual property rights. So in lieu of any contracts or agreements that states otherwise, if there are persons that own it, it's jointly owned, and those permissions. So for example, copyright, many of your listeners may know, is a group of rights or a bundle of rights. So for this podcast, Al has the right to decide when it's broadcast, if it's rebroadcast, if it's edited into another version, if it's included in someone else's work, all of those rights are yours, but maybe not just yours. I don't know what the contracts are. Maybe there's you and a team that's
I am not the sole owner of Crypto Caribbean.
there we go. I'm not trying to get all into your business, but you know, these shared rights, and particularly with music, it's usually shared and combination of rights. It's very rare that it's one person that owns all their rights. One case, an example of that though, is Basie. So okay then. First reggae artist to release an NFT, and able to do so because he owned all the rights to the masters that he was releasing as a project. So you know.
Yeah, let me just plug myself, because you keep dropping names, and all of these people are former guests of the Crypto and Cognac podcast show. Big up Basie for being on the show season 1. Big up Ingrid for being on the show, for seeing the value in what we were doing.
You're not big enough, Jay-Z. Are you? Was he? Was not okay. Not yet.
Jay-Z's Jay's gonna be on maybe season finale, season 3.
Okay.
But I mean, we've seen that situation with Jay and Dame Dash, and we've seen more and more brands coming into the metaverse space. So we've seen Pepsi, we've seen Adidas, we've seen Nike, we've seen Manchester United, we've seen Manchester United just as early as today, as recent as today. But what we've seen is that some of these brands have gone further than just expecting to migrate their intellectual property rights from the physical world into the metaverse digital world by reapplying for new patents, new copyrights, new trademarks that specifically speak to the digital space. And I know Nike was one of those companies that did that. Do you think that they've seen maybe gaps, or they just have deep enough pockets to close off any area of uncertainty?
I'm going to go ahead and say C, both of the above. So I think definitely they've spotted gaps. What the law is doing right now, as we've all been smart enough to admit, is playing catch up. So technology, as usual, has run far outpace, and lawyers are relying on contracts that speak about, you know, all technology now known or hereafter devised, and they're trying to stretch that to say it means this, or you know, in perpetuity or in any galaxy was some of the territories that persons used to sign agreements for in any territory. So yes, they're trying to stretch it to make it work, but invariably they recognize that it would be better for them to cover the field and to ensure that anything going forward explicitly gives them the rights to do all of what they'd like to do. So the 360 is what they had been doing for a while before, particularly speaking to music industry now, and I think that's something that they're going to want to continue to do moving forward. I was wondering though, when you were speaking, if you're going to touch on the Hermes Birkin bags. That's where I thought we were going for a second.
We're going to touch all that. I mean, we could go there next. I mean, I think that's a good segue. So, you know, talk a little bit about that and how NFTs, the metaverse, are going to be used to kind of validate and secure IP.
Yeah. Okay. So again, for anyone that isn't familiar, a quick summary. An artist released an NFT collection, a quite exclusive collection, not unlike the exclusivity of the real life bags. I believe it was 100 of these Birkin bags, these Meta Birkins that were released. And of course, he did these. They sold well. They're still reselling well, even on the secondary market. And this was before many brands were really, I guess, taking the opportunity as seriously. Nevertheless, of course, or needless to say, at this point, Hermes is probably themselves interested in getting into the market. And it would be fair for them, I believe, to assert that they have some challenge in doing so when there's already been a kind of landmark collection bearing their name and their brand. the artist is taking a really great defense, and I would really love to be in that court. I think it's already being appealed, but he's basically saying that this is art, that his piece was a social commentary, that it's in no way meant to be, it's not, no one is going to buy it and think it's a handbag or the real
Exactly.
thing. So this is going to be an interesting one to see how the court applies it. To be honest, I think whereas he may get away with not breaching trademark, they could go and say it's not that it's misleading and deceptive to the public or something like this. So these are
Yeah.
interesting times.
I mean, I think so. Giving the impression that he's associated with them, I think is
Passing on.
one thing. I don't know how their copyrights are around their name, like Meta, because Meta Birkins. I don't know if they've trademarked, Birkins, Meta Birkins. We are seeing in this space that there are people who are building branding and building legacy wealth assets by
Hmm.
simply investing in
Domain,
names,
domains.
domains
Yeah.
associated with certain brands, because they expect that, as
Yeah.
I do, adoption is
Inevitable.
inevitable and everybody's going to be on board,
Yep.
and these people are going to need to buy these domains. So I mean,
But I think they expect it with good reason, because technology adoption, as we know, follows that same process or that same curve or wave.
right.
So yeah, I think a lot of persons are feeling that same .com energy, and you're having, so when persons speak about how they can make money from intellectual property in this new realm, I often say, well, honestly, like how you made money traditionally, you can still make money, because now it's just a whole new market. So maybe you're making metaverse t-shirts or whatever to sell in the real world. So there's some traditional activity that continues, but then there's a whole new set of jobs for this whole new industry as well. So there's so many more positions, of course, for designers. Those are the obvious positions, and software developers, but then like community managers
Yep.
and all these persons that are creating content and that are integral parts of a NFT drop on community. Those there, that's very interesting too. And then of course you go high tech and go wearables and those things. And
Yep.
and really seeing, I'm excited to see Caribbean designers step out even more fulsome into that space.
Yeah, I mean, one area that has kind of um been made aware to me in recent time, everybody's kind of been gung-ho about the whole play to earn space, uh
Hmm.
Axie Infinity and all these other games, Roblox and these different
Yeah.
metaverses. But somebody kind of bridged the idea of something that they have coined, where to earn, where we see people get paid for representing themselves in the metaverse through the branded clothing. So right now, people wear, Balenciaga t-shirts and Nike shoes, and they're basically billboards for these companies,
Yo.
because there's a whole advertising industry around getting products to consumers. But what if you could skip all those middlemen and reward your customers for being your billboards?
You literally, like, I'm just thinking of a whole new level of the thing now. So you can turn every fan into a walking advertisement.
Mhm.
As they say. But when you first started speaking, I was thinking, how sometimes in the Caribbean we say, "Yo, them would have to pay me for wear that." I'm like, no, they really can. Like, no, bet they can pay me to wear that in the metaverse. Very interesting.
Yeah, we are so, I feel like every conversation I have, this is kind of reiterated about how early we are,
Mhm.
about how we have little to no idea of where this space is
It's
going to
fine.
be in 10 years from now. We keep saying that the crypto industry adoption is around where the internet was in 97, 98, which if we think back to what that was even before BlackBerry phones. So that was before pinned messages. That was before voice over IP. That was before we contemplated
Video
having
message, all of these things.
like this, where we're just using the internet. So
Yeah.
if we just kind of extrapolate on the idea of that as we move forward, I'm so excited. I don't know how people not excited. Like, I'm just so outside of the potential capital appreciation and investment. I don't know how people's minds aren't just blown about what to expect next.
No, okay. I am there. But I have to admit that I did an about face. So actually, after I wrote the paper, so I wrote the paper in July of last year, and then June or July of last year, for um, I, I kind of started to just worry, because when you think of the extreme of where this thing can go, for some reason, do you know that cartoon movie Wally?
Yes.
I just thought, suppose you have a hand in being a part in why people are lying on their beds with tubes, changing their clothes to pink because the TV says pink is the new blue. You know, so that there was that momentary pause, but I'm here pressing gas. I'm here sipping on my cognac and feeling comfortable and knowing that I'm in the right space, because the potential for good is too huge in this space. Like, when I do the maths,
Yeah.
when I do my research, when I speak to people like you, when I listening in the rooms, this is the solution that we've been seeking in so many levels. So
And what I would say, in addition to that, for people who are truly fearful that we get to that point that, what's that movie called? Ready Player One. If you
yes,
if you're worried about us getting to that Ready Player One situation,
point.
if you're one of those people who have that fear, then it is incumbent on you to get involved
The
and
direction of it.
and direct this away from that part. It does not release you of that obligation. It further increases your obligation in that light for me,
Yeah.
because
And I believe what you're saying. The wave is coming, so you decide if you're gonna get swept away, or if you're going to get on a boat, or if you're gonna steer a ship. Like, whichever part you're going to play, or at very least learn how to swim. Right now, a lot of what I'm doing is just showing people the metaverse, because I found that you can write a paper, you can speak as much as you want, but for some, it's that first sitting down and seeing Decentraland, going into crypto voxels, that gets them to understand what we're actually talking about, or even just looking at open seas, because
yeah.
for a lot of persons, they're still not going on their own. So
Yeah, I mean, and I think as we see more and more brands, I mean, Bud Light, it's either, no, I think it's Miller Lite
mhm.
is doing something big in Decentraland during the Super Bowl. FTX is doing something during the Super Bowl. FTX, which is one of the biggest exchanges in the US, doing something during the Super Bowl as well. We recently saw Coachella release
Mhm.
an NFT collection.
Right, that's gonna be season passes, or like
Yeah,
VIP
yeah.
passes,
So
exclusive.
there are a couple that you could have lifetime passes to Coachella,
Right. I think they
stuff
released
like
like
that.
16 or something, a very limited amount, something like
I
that.
mean, I think we're not 2 years ago where all the institutional intellects were saying this doesn't make sense. This is
Yeah.
going to be gone in two seconds. We're at this stage where these people who initially were naysayers, who have the resources to hire the best talent and the brightest minds to do some digging, these guys are now saying, okay, there's something here. We don't know exactly what yet, but
But it's time for it's not going away.
it's worth us investing in it. And I think for the average person, we have to take a look at that and say, okay, Nike is here, Adidas is here, Coachella
Mhm.
is here, JP
Mhm.
Morgan is here,
Mhm.
Goldman Sachs is here. What is it here? And for the first time, we don't have to wait for their permission to take part. You
You know,
can. Go and register now and join Decentraland. Go ahead.
No, I just love what you're saying. Like, you're during colonization, a lot of decisions and world decisions and how things were shaped happened without us having a voice. And this is literally a time where there's a new shaping of a new paradigm, and the access to it is like never before. Um, it's a space that truly is about community. That's at the core of successes, and at the core of the ethos behind a lot of the operations that you see happening. Sorry, while you were speaking though, there were two things that were coming to me. I wanted to share Black Metaverse. There's a Black History Month event happening at the end of this month in the Metaverse. I'm part of planning blackmeta.io, and I think it's a great space again for people to meet, because people all around the world are realizing disenfranchised or communities, or those communities who didn't see themselves here, you definitely have a space here. Like, this is an empowering place. And then I just wanted to touch back one last IP issue, if I could squeeze it in, because I found it fascinating.
We're talking IP.
Thank you. Thank you. This is finally The Matrix. Were you following that release and what their
Yeah,
what their roadmap looks like?
yeah, yeah.
I think that's an incredible example of things that we're going to be seeing more and more of. But I just think it was so successfully done, and shows how another way in which attaching copyright or intellectual property to your NFTs can give them added value and can extend the life or viability of your offering for a purchaser or for a collector.
So I mean, I've had recent conversations with creatives around how they decide how much of their IP to hand over to a potential buyer, um, in this metaverse space, right? So for an artist who may not be sold on the value proposition and giving up their IP, what would you say, if you were to, just have a conversation with that person? Not legal advice, not financial advice. Where does your mind automatically kind of lead?
Um, my advice, even in this space, is pretty much the same as it is in the real world. At the end of the day, it's being able to objectively assess where you're at in your career and what your objectives are, or what your goals are with what you're doing. So the one thing to consider about this space that is better than the real world is that royalties still exist. So, even while you give away your intellectual property, there's still a chance to earn in the back end, which doesn't exist out here for us, or for most of us. Um, but at the end of the day, there's no wrong or right. It's really just where are you at? Do you need money now, or can you wait? Because that's the trade that you're making. Invariably, when you give away your IP in front, um, I mean, 9 times out of 10, if it doesn't go on to do anything, then you've won. You're ahead of the game. But in that one time when so for example, Cool Runnings, the bobsled team. I don't know if you spoke with, was he a guest as well? Am I name dropping another
No,
guest?
no, but I mean, he might be on
He might
next
be.
week.
Oh Lord,
Send me
okay.
the link. Send me the link.
100%, 100%. But he was sharing the story with me of Cool Runnings. Like, he sold that story not thinking it would be the cult classic it is.
Mm,
And what he sold it for was a good price at the time. I
right.
don't remember. I don't think he shared, but knowing what it's gone on to be, and knowing, for example, the potential of Cool Runnings in the NFT space with something that
Right.
has a cult classic, it's hard, because now they've done a bobsled fundraiser, and I'm sure it didn't do as well as a Cool Runnings fundraiser would have done. So
Yeah.
you just don't
I
know.
mean, it really, and I think because we're now kind of looking back to what could have been
Mm.
had we had this in place 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I think that is what really, for me, drives home the value of what we have now. Because if we're saying, if Sparrow had been able to NFT his work, if Bob Marley had been able to NFT his work, if this, then that, what we
Al,
have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I feel the same. I feel it for Jamaica, from our music to our ganja to our coffee to our whatever. I just keep thinking there is so much love around the world for Jamaica. If we can find a way to bring it back, so we can, I don't know, have some healthcare, have some education, have some something. I don't know, just those basic stuff to take care of the country. I see so much opportunities for the region with this thing.
It's for the region because I mean we feel the same way in Trinidad about our carnival, about
Yeah,
soca
yeah,
music. I mean you guys have Jamaica has done an amazing job of branding itself, right? And while it does pay in terms of you have a huge pull for people coming to experience that genuine real experience in visiting and you get tourism out of that. I just wonder what that would have been like in terms of revenue generation if you guys were able to benefit from the IP. I saw I think a TikTok recently where somebody was saying that globally there is this impression of what a Caribbean accent sounds like,
yeah.
right? And it's this kind of American Jamaican accent, and it all comes from Sebastian the Crab
That's just
in the Mermaid, right? So
too
everybody just thinks, that's how Jamaicans talk, that's how Caribbean
much.
people talk, and it was like, whoa! I mean, Sebastian was Jamaican, like you don't even think about that, about how influential the culture has been.
But I actually thought Sebastian was a Trini. So like I'm ending this conversation to literally go and go. I swear Sebastian was a Trini. I don't know who
Okay, so it's not even a real Caribbean accent. It's just what they think, we sound like.
That's what we sound like apparently. Whoa. But yeah, I mean, our entire region, from the food to soca, calypso, compa, all these different forms that we have, as well as our art, and our fashion designers. I think in Trinidad, Mei Ling and the other designers that
Shout
have.
out to Anya Youngchi. I'm
Anya.
going to name now.
Okay. Okay, see there now. So I mean, within each island, you think of Grenada, the Spice Isle. Like I just believe that no offense to the longevity and the history, but maybe the blockchain is a solution CARICOM needed to like work it out and make the thing function. I don't know. I just feel like that side eye that we give each other, it's less easy, it's less necessary when you have when you have the blockchain,
Yeah.
because it's just there. We don't have to hype. I don't have to pretend I over you, because you can see what's going on with
And it's
me. Like,
trustless. That issue, I mean, and I think it's an issue that Afro descended people who have experienced or whose ancestors have experienced slavery, and
absolutely.
and that's everyone in the Caribbean. I don't care what you look like now, you've been affected by the trauma of slavery, even in America.
As you say, ancestry.
And I think it breeds a level of mistrust into us, as a society, that I think can be maybe not solved, but improved on through the blockchain.
I love what you're saying. This is the second time today I have cause to mention, or third time today I've caused to mention post-traumatic slave syndrome. I am there with you, Al. And I mean, I don't want to preach or get crazy, but sometimes when I'm really feeling good about what's happening with crypto and our world right now, I see DeFi as a means of decolonization of the mind. It really requires, when I go back to it and I say to persons, yeah, okay, it sounds flashy and all of that, but it's also about financial literacy,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of what you do in the group as well. It's also
Yeah.
just about it's about financial responsibility
Yeah.
as well, which is another aspect of mental decolonization. So there is not just the exciting, oh, put up a piece of art and try to make a million. It's also about understanding what tokenomics, or really community economics, and that kind of there's a lot that's really powerful and possible in the space, for true.
For true. So bringing it back to IP. So there's IP around tokens, right? We've seen what has happened with Dogecoin, and the guys who initially created Dogecoin, they didn't trademark it. People have since, kind of stolen the name, created brands around that. There's Doge this, Doge that, Doge this. Um,
Mhm.
Bitcoin is not trademarked anywhere because it's not owned by anyone. It's
It's
created by
Satoshi's, right?
someone with a pseudonym or group with pseudonyms. So we have IP considerations on the token side, the traditional currency side. Then we
Mhm.
have IP considerations on the NFT side as it relates to all works of art, whether it be pictures, drawings, art, audio, music, film. And then we have on the metaverse side, which is more experiential, people going into this digital world. Which one do you think is going to be most influential or most impacted, or is going to see IP really stand out in the first instance? How do you see the evolution going? Do you think it grows the same across all these channels and platforms? Or do you think one area, whether it's the metaverse, whether it's NFTs, whether it's currency, you see IP really shaking that area first? What are your thoughts there?
Um, it's a little hard to choose between either of those three because I still see for me. So when somebody, if someone were to come to me and say present either of those projects, I would be giving them the same kind of advice initially, and that's what I'm trying to get at. So in other words, for now, persons might like to think that intellectual property is no longer relevant in this new space, that there's blockchain and you're minting and your digital, there's certificate of authenticity and that's it. But the truth is that until we're not just the early majority, and until there is all of the real world really on there, we need to pay attention to what's happening in real world as well. So if you're going to be launching a project or launching a coin, I would definitely be saying protect your trademarks in key territories, as much as if you were launching a handbag in the real world, or if you were creating a metaverse, or creating an NFT drop. What I'm trying to say is along across the board, my advice is still the same. Where possible, secure all of your domains, on social media or on the .io or whatever extension it is that's key to you. And then register trademarks in real world in the key jurisdictions where you plan to operate or where you plan to market or promote. Because invariably, until we're all in the metaverse, people are still marketing on social media and real world to try and convert and pull people into their discords and into their worlds. And so, yeah, so you want to make sure that you have those real world protections. But if I had to choose one, because that's what you asked me to do, I'm going to say metaverse because it is the one that I mean, metaverse integrates NFTs. A token is a part of often the functionality or operability. So I'm gonna say metaverse because it just has so many more moving parts. And so,
Right.
when you think again to go back to Matrix, when you think about them telling you you can buy an NFT right now that will become an avatar in a world that they create, the possibilities start to go crazy because now exactly what clothes am I going to create for my avatar? Maybe I get to write a storyline for my avatar that then gets turned into a book. So I could have bought an NFT and created, you know what I mean?
Let me name drop just again. So Crypto Rastas,
Oh
which
yeah,
which is a project out of Brazil, but also who've been heavily influenced by Jamaican culture.
yeah.
Uh, they actually, each of their Crypto Rasta NFTs actually comes with a story. And recently, they were offering an opportunity where you can have your Rasta's story be created into like a short film.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this
You
thing
start to
can
see
go
what's
on.
possible. Okay,
It
okay. And it's
It's
little simple things, you see what same crypto rastas did with the when Yardy bus stop.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there it's little steps, but right now we must understand, as you're saying, it's so early that a little step goes a long way. And it's having, for my part, if I could share one thing, what's been really encouraging or great for me in this space is having the confidence to step out boldly. I think in the Caribbean we tend to be or let me not stereotype. I am at times want to make sure I know what's going on, and this is one of those spaces that you kind of can't be. Yes, you do your own research and all of that, but there's an area of just stepping out and
Yeah.
just doing the thing because you're doing the thing, and
Yeah. And in doing the thing is where you
you learn
find that
and
knowledge
grow.
and that comfort level.
A
I tell
hundred.
people all the time. I mean, I spend, I left my 8 to 4 job to take up a 24-hour job. Um,
Read
and
out.
I still don't consider myself an expert by any means, because there's so much going on in this space, and there are so many opportunities, and every day it grows. And someone who was an expert in a particular area of the crypto verse 2 months ago, if they took a 2 month vacation, they're coming back and they don't understand what's happening because it's moving so fast.
Exactly. It took me a while to realize that it's when I started to speak with more people in the space and share my ideas. And then I would find out that some of these persons who I was looking up to had found out about it the same time as me. It's just that unlike me, they had been bold enough to try things earlier. And I think so. This is the Caribbean can be a little bit of an unforgiving place for trial and error or trial and failure. Whereas a little bit of intentional learning and pushing through is required right now, and some pioneering, let's put it that
You
way.
know,
And I think that came up last week too.
yeah, I was not gonna say Gabriel was, that was one of the things that he was really harping on, that people, us in the Caribbean, we need to, get rid of this idea that failure is a bad thing,
Yeah,
and stop being afraid to fail, because it's in failing where you learn and you push forward. And
yeah,
if you're going down a clear path, it means that you're going down someone else's path.
yeah.
If the path in front of you is clear, it means that you're going down someone else's path.
It's not uncharted territory. Then
Right.
this has been figured out before. 100%, 100%.
So as we get close to the close, right?
No,
Yeah, we've been talking for
it is.
a minute. But I'm gonna give you an opportunity, to tell us what's next for you. What's next for um, the various projects that you're leading. I mean, you're in between Jamaica and Italy.
Mhm.
Um, what are you doing? How are you burning your part through this space?
I am. No, it's a great question. There's a lot happening, but I think the immediate things I would love to share are one. I am assisting an artist. Her name is I Nancy. So she's 70. She's a Jamaican artist who is decorated and awarded, and does mixed media collages from recycled pieces of
Right.
recycled material, but would never be in the cryptoverse. Just would never be in there. And I've been matching her or just sharing this space with her, introducing it to her. I got her on Clubhouse, got her listening to conversations. She's excited by the opportunity. I've found some younger digital artists to work with her.
Yeah.
And we should be having our first exhibit up at the end of this month. So that is one thing I'm happy to be wrapping up, like the first collab where I've paired an older artist with new artists to see new works come out, and they're collabing on the finals result. And then personally, I'm coming out with my own NFTs. Listen, yeah, don't be surprised, Al.
Is
Don't
is
be.
it is it is it is it is it a collection? Is it a multi algorithmic collection? What is it? Is
No,
it?
I was like, I'm writing that down because I'm like, that sounds like that could be interesting.
But I
No,
mean, that's one area we didn't really focus on. So I don't want you to just mention it. I want you to really go into it while we have some time. You
mhm,
are an artist yourself.
yeah,
So tell me about that project.
that project. Wow. Okay, so I was the first set of NFTs I want to release are actually for where I feel most creative, which is in ideating for project for collaboration. So I'm creating NFTs for person that want this experience for us to figure out your drop together.
Right.
But my own, yeah, I have some music that I've been working on for years, and a great virgin of mine from Jamaica, a fellow artist named Everflow, featured on the track. So we're actually finishing up the video for it this week. He's
Dope.
in Jamaica, and yeah, hoping that by summer we'll have some other things for people to bang to. The thing is, I'm still looking. I'm looking at Emanate. I'm looking at other platforms. I'm not sure where music has
Yeah.
its foot yet, or how to release it. But I stay tuned to the Crypto and Cognac podcast and see if I can find out where to release my things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and what I would say is, because I've tested a lot of things. I mean, because of my platform, because I want to share as much and share as broad of a diverse experience as possible. I've tested so many things, and what I say is, don't feel bad to release on multiple platforms. Like you don't have to pick a winner. We're not gonna know who the winner is if there is one winner. But don't
And
be
the
afraid to,
benefits from
yeah, don't be afraid to put some stuff on Ethereum, put some stuff on Solana, put some stuff on Tezos, put some stuff
Polygon.
on Polygon, put some stuff on BSC, because it's your stuff and you own it, and so you have a right to place it wherever you feel. Put it in every shop. If you could sell your stuff, if you could sell your stuff in Macy's and Neiman Marcus and Nordstrom,
You're
like
100% right.
like
Why I
Nike
own it
does.
in one shop and I don't own that shop?
Nike has their own stores, but they still selling stuff in Macy's. They still selling stuff in Nordstrom. They still selling stuff in the Caribbean, right?
Facts. Wherever the people go, be there for
Yeah.
them.
Wherever the people are, so I feel like a lot of people get kind of bogged down on trying to choose that winner. I don't subscribe to that at all. I say, especially for creatives, one of the things that uh, the cryptoverse has really done is open us up to new markets. So why limit yourself to markets? Why go from a position of being limited with markets to now limiting yourself with markets? It's crazy to me.
No, here's the thing. So here with music, I think you're 100% correct. Put it everywhere so everyone can consume it, all the places. But maybe with art, I can understand if someone is buying a piece thinking that they're buying a rare thing, but it's actually also there and there and there and there. Like,
Well, I mean, if you're doing a one of one, I get it. If you're doing a one of one, I get it. You have to
I was
choose,
saying,
just
you do
just
it
like in
on.
the physical space. Just like in the physical space, if you're gonna do one piece of art, you have to decide what medium you're
Only
gonna produce it on.
how.
Is it gonna be a carving? Is it gonna be a canvas painting? Is it going to be a mural on a wall, like
Mhm.
Banksy or one of these guys? So you still have to choose your medium if your unique selling point is scarcity.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think right now it's not necessary for us to get into these wars about I'm a Ethereum guy maxi, and I'm a Solana maxi, and I'm
No,
a
no, no, no,
Cardano
no.
maxi,
None of them
so
are paying me to use their stuff yet. So so I'm not pledging any allegiance.
they must pay me. Well, I mean, technically if you hold in the token, you have some greater ownership.
Some connection. Very, very true. And we didn't even get into those. Anyway, this
Listen,
is
you know what that means? That just means that you're gonna have to come back.
yes, with pleasure. I'm out of
Yeah,
drinks too. So the whole it's perfectly timeless.
it's
I'll be back.
perfectly timed. So Joan, thank you so much for being with me this evening. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing in this conversation. Thank you for sharing a drink. Thank you for staying up. I know it's getting close to midnight where you are, so thank you
Absolutely.
for that.
No, but with pleasure. This is I appreciate the invitation. I've been singing Crypto Caribbean praise everywhere I go. I tell people to join the Telegram group. And this is what we need. Like persons like you consistently connecting and bringing the views. So thank you for inviting me out. Truly.
So, guys, you all heard what Joan said. She said, make sure and like, follow, share.
Yeah.
I'm told that is how the algorithm works to keep this content being shared. As I say always, adoption is inevitable. Guys, thank you for being on the Crypto and Cognac podcast show. Check us out on all the streaming platforms everywhere. Joan, thank you very much for being with me. Guys,
Blessings. Thank you.
be blessed. Check, check.